Hey everyone, it's Tobes, and welcome to your second monitor. Today is the third video in my series of March of the Machine Commander deck techs. My plan is to cover every legendary creature from March of the Machine's main set in no particular order, and if there's still interest at the end of all that, I'll do the extra legends from Mom Jumpstart, and the special pre-release promos, and maybe even the non-face legends from the March of the Machine Commander products. So if you have a request, any particular commander you want to see me build a deck for, or a way you want to see me build it, let me know in the comments below. As you can see, today our commander is Inga and Esika. That's Inga Rune Eyes and Esika God of the Tree, both from Kaldheim, and depicted wonderfully here by Wayne Reynolds. Love Wayne Reynolds' art. If you've watched my pack opening videos, you know I love Esika. And this card has a special place in my heart because it helped me out a lot in the March of the Machine Store Championship. But before we get started, let's go over my deck building template. So I like to build decks around the commander. I want to see what that commander can do for me, rather than just have something in the command zone that gives me the color identity I want and maybe just supports my plan. I want the plan to be about the commander. So my game plan is about 30 cards of what the deck is doing and how it wins. You know, none of these numbers are hard, but I generally go for about 30. Then I do another 30 cards that are support, split evenly between card advantage, sometimes draw, but not always, acceleration, usually that means ramp, but it could be temporary ramp like treasure creation, and interaction, which is usually just removal. I run 1 or 2 wraths every deck. Sometimes I'll run none, sometimes I'll run more, depending on what the game plan is. And then I do 38 lands to make sure that I never miss out on my land drops. So let's talk about our team up commander and who they've teamed up with for this deck. We've got a companion going on. But first, let's talk about Inga and Esika. So Inga and Esika is a 4/4 human god for 2, a green, and a blue, with 2 abilities. The first ability is creatures you control have vigilance, and tap to add 1 mana of any color, spend this mana only to cast a creature spell. And whenever you cast a creature spell, if 3 or more mana from creatures was spent to cast it, draw a card. So Inga and Esika kind of gives all of our creature spells Convoke. It's not the same as Convoke exactly, because we're tapping our creatures to produce mana rather than tapping them to pay for a cost based on their own color, but it works pretty similarly. And Inga and Esika is rewarding us for casting creature spells using mana from our creatures. So it even gives us vigilance for all our creatures. So if we have a good attack, we can swing in with vigilance and then tap out after that to put more creatures on the battlefield. Because we get rewarded for spending 3 or more mana on creatures, I thought, why not have no cards in our deck that were worth less than 3 mana? That's what Karuga does for us. Karuga is a 5/4 dinosaur hippo for 3 and 2 hybrid Simic mana, so you can spend it either with 2 green, 2 blue, or 1 of each. With the ability, when Karuga enters the battlefield, draw a card for each other permanent you control with mana value 3 or greater. So we have a lot of those, obviously, because none of our spells cost less than 3. But Karuga also has the Companion ability. Companion means Karuga will start outside of our deck, essentially in our sideboard, which normally you don't get to have for Commander, but Karuga is, in this deck, our 101st card. That's how Companion works in Commander. But the only way we can do that is by building our deck to conform to Karuga's Companion requirement, which is that our starting deck contains only cards with mana value 3 or greater, and of course lands. So we built it that way, so we can have Karuga sitting off to the side, and then at any time we want as a sorcery, we can pay 3 generic mana to move Karuga from the companion zone, essentially, into our hand, and we can cast them as normal at that point. So we've built ourselves with a little bit of a deck building restriction. We're not getting to run things like Soul Ring and Arcane Signet, but we're going to be able to drop Karuga at some point and get an awful lot of cards off of it. And if we feel like we're not getting enough cards out of it, we can use mana from our creatures with Inga and Esika to pay for Karuga and get a card draw when Karuga's on the stack once we've cast it. Then it hits the battlefield and we get lots and lots of cards. Probably at least 1, because Inga and Esika is likely to be in play. So we have our commander, and they are not alone. So let's talk about our game plan. We are playing a classic Simic go-wide strategy. We don't do much besides land go on our first 2 turns due to Karuga, although we have a couple of ways around that. But once turn 3 hits, we can start powering out creatures and using those creatures to cast more creatures. In turn, that makes us draw more creatures, and the cycle continues. We're running more than 50 cards that put creatures onto the battlefield. I know you're looking down here, it says just 48, but that doesn't necessarily count our commanders and the cards that we're playing that are not creatures themselves, but put creature tokens into the battlefield. So we're running more than 50 cards that put creatures on the battlefield, and we essentially never run out of cards to play, thanks to Inga and Esika and some of the other things we're running. Inga and Esika, giving all of our friends vigilance, plays out in a kind of an interesting pattern, as I alluded to before. We can push damage with our vigilant creatures during combat, but instead of keeping them untapped so that they can block, we tap them post-combat to cast more creatures so those creatures can be our untapped blockers. At every turn, the board grows. Almost all of our creatures are more than just their stats. It just gets out of hand. There are no guardrails on this Rainbow Road, as our opponents will quickly find out. So let's get into our game plan. A big part of this is tokens. We want to get more creatures on the battlefield than we have creature cards in our deck. So we're going to start with our tokens section. Let's get to it. We begin with the Ether Channeler. Ether Channeler is part of a sort of super cycle of cards that come in and have a charm built into them as an enters the battlefield trigger. So for 2 and a blue, we get a 2/1 human wizard. When it enters, we either make a 1/1 bird, we bounce another non-land permanent to its owner's hand, or we draw a card. So sometimes this is a 3 mana draw spell that comes with a 2/1. Sometimes it's a 3 mana unsummon, or any other kind of bounce you want to think of it as that comes with a 2/1. But a lot of the times we're paying 3 mana to get 2 bodies on the battlefield, which next turn we can tap for 2 more mana. So this pattern is something you're going to see several different times. 3 mana cards that come in with a friend and give us essentially ramp once our commander is out. Next up, we have a battle, Invasion of Segovia. I really think battles are fun, especially in Commander, because you can play with them in a sort of politics way, like, hey, I'm going to put this out, I'm going to put you on defense of it, can I just hit my battle? I'm not going to attack anyone else, and even if you let me, I'm not going to attack you for the next turn. Just gives me a little bit of value, and it gets my creatures through the combat step without threatening you. It's pretty good. So we have Invasions of Segovia. For 2 and a blue, the battle comes in. Of course, if you haven't played with battles before, it comes in, it's a sideways card like this, and you choose an opponent to protect it. That opponent can block when you attack the battle, just like you can attack the battle, or you attack the battle the same way you would a planeswalker, essentially. It has 4 defense counters on it, and each damage you do to it removes a defense counter. Yeah, that's the simplest thing. Once it is defeated, you exile it and you can cast it transformed. So all that to say, Invasion of Segovia comes in and makes 2 1/1 blue Kraken creature tokens with trample. These are 1/1s with trample because Segovia is the tiny little plane. Really cute. And once Invasion of Segovia is defeated, it flips into Caetus, Sea Tyrant of Segovia. It's a 3/3 serpent that says non-creature spells you cast have Convoke. Now, we've got a lot of creature spells, but we have several non-creatures as well, and this makes it so, essentially, we can tap our creatures to cast anything we want. In addition, at the beginning of your end step, untap up to 4 target creatures. That's great, because it gives us the ability to use our interaction with our creatures convoked, but also we have a few ways to cast spells with flash in this deck. So Caetus is sort of a ramp spell in this way, because we're able to, with Inga and Esika out, and something that lets us flash in our creatures, we untap 4 creatures and we can use them for mana to cast creatures with flash on our opponent's turns. I think battles are just a lot of fun. Next up, we have Lovestruck Beast. For 2 and a green, we get a 5/5 Beast Noble, but it can't attack unless we control a 1/1 creature, of which we have many. In addition, the beast makes their own beloved with the adventure Heart's Desire. This is a sorcery for 1 green. It just makes a 1/1 human. So that means if you are going to play Heart's Desire first, you're going to have that 1/1 human, and assuming it survives, you get a 5/5 that can attack just for 3 mana. Heart's Desire, this adventure, is not its own spell. Or it is its own spell, but in a zone other than the stack, it's just a feature of this 3 mana card, which means we can put it on our deck without violating the Karuga companion requirement, but we can cast Heart's Desire if Lovestruck Beast is, in our opening hand, or it's what we draw on the first turn. We can get a turn 1 play off of this, and it puts a creature into the battlefield, which is just what Inga and Esika want us to have. Creatures waiting to tap and make more creatures. So Lovestruck Beast, much like Ether Channeler, is a 2-for-1. Vision of Segovia kind of is too. Nadir Kraken. This is a great card for this deck. For 1 and 2 blue, we get a 2/3 Kraken that says whenever you draw a card, you can pay a generic mana. And if you do, you put a 1/1 counter on the Kraken and make a 1/1 tentacle creature token. So the Kraken just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger as you draw cards, if you're willing to pay an extra surcharge of 1. And each time you do, you get a tentacle. Those tentacles, just like the Kraken, tap for mana with our commander. So we might tap 3 tentacles to help cast Ether Channeler with our commander. And when we do, we'll draw a card from that, and we can pay 1 mana and make another tentacle. Nadir Kraken really goes off in this deck. It's a lot of fun. Preening Champion is in here because it is a 2/2 flyer for 2 and a blue that, when it comes in, it makes a 1/1 elemental token. So much like Ether Channeler, it is a 3 mana, 2 and a blue, to come in and make a 1/1. Though Ether Channeler doesn't fly and its bird does, Preening Champion does fly and its elemental doesn't, but it works either way. And it's from the same set as Inga and Esika, so I think it fits. Cool peacock. Next up we have Scoot Swarm. If you've played against Scoot Swarm or played with Scoot Swarm, you know why this is dangerous. For 2 and a green, it's a 1/1 insect with landfall. The landfall ability essentially says, when you have a land enter the battlefield under your control, you'll make a 1/1 insect, unless that land that entered is your 6th or greater land. If you have 6 or more lands when this trigger resolves, you don't make a 1/1 insect, you make a copy of Scoot Swarm. So let's say you were to play somehow 2 lands per turn, and Scoot Swarm's in play. You play your first land, it happens to be the 6th land you have in play, you make a Scoot Swarm. You play your second land, both of those scoots trigger, and each will make another Scoot Swarm. Now you have 4 scoots. The scoots get out of hand, and having a lot of scoots that are all able to tap for mana so that you can play more creatures, so that you can draw a card off of your commander from playing a creature off of using mana from creatures, it just gets crazy. You're going to draw yourself into another land or into a ramp spell or something. Your scoots are going to be a big problem. This is a bomb. Warden of the Grove is pretty great too. For 2 and a green, we get a 2/2 Hydra that says at the beginning of your end step, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. And whenever another non-token creature you control enters, it endures X, where X is the number of counters on this creature. So endure X that is, means you put that number of 1/1 counters on the creature that entered, or you make a spirit creature token that is power and toughness equal to X. So Warden of the Grove, it's not going to give you that much help on the turn it comes in, but once it gets to the end step, it'll get its first counter, and from then on, all of your creatures come in either with a counter on them, at least 1 counter, or you'll make a token to go with your creature every time. In this deck, a lot of the times we want those tokens, but sometimes you want to get just really big. Just take the counters route. Warden of the Grove, it's hard to overstate how helpful this can be in this deck. Adrix and Nev Twin Casters is a 4 mana 2/2 Merfolk Wizard for 2 a green and a blue. It has Ward 2, and if we were to make 1 or more tokens, we make twice as many. Every event, we double our tokens. This is bonkers with this deck. We pay 1 mana when we draw a card with Meteor Kraken and put a counter on it and make 2 tentacles. We play our Preening Champion, we get 2 elementals. We play our 6th land with Scoot Swarm in play, it triggers and we get 2 Scoots. Then we play another land somehow and we get 6 more Scoots total. It's crazy. Idrix and Nev isn't doing much for us on its own, but it's just ready for all of the token malarkey that we're doing. And as you can see, normally, like I say, my game plan is about 30 cards. I'm only running 27 for tokens, but that's not the entirety of the game plan. You'll see a little bit more as we go on. So next up is Arasta of the Endless Web. Arasta, I love this card. For 2 green, we get a 3/5 spider with reach that says whenever an opponent casts an instant or sorcery, create a 1/2 green spider creature token with reach. So if we're worried about not being able to block flyers, we just let our opponents play Magic, and we're going to end up with a bunch of tokens that can block their flyers. And every time our opponents do something to interact with us or interact with each other, we get another source of mana from that token. Or maybe even 2 of them if Idrix and Nev are out. I really like Arasta. Brightcap Badger is a Badger Druid from the Bloomborough Commander decks. It's 3 and a green for a 3/4 that says each fungus and sapperling you control has tapped to add a green, and at the beginning of your end step, create a 1/1 green sapperling creature token. So, beginning of your end step, every turn, you get a sapperling. If you got it during your upkeep or some other part of the turn, you still wouldn't be able to tap it for mana because it's summoning 6, so getting it at the end doesn't hurt too much. We don't have any other sapperlings or fungus in this deck. We don't have any sapperlings or fungus typed cards at all. I think there might just only be 1 sapperling in Magic, Shrufus, I believe. Either way, so the Brightcap Badger's first ability doesn't do much for us, the ability to tap for green, until we have sapperlings. And the Badger's not the only way we have to make those sapperling tokens. So if Inga and Esika happen to get removed, we can still tap for green from our sapperlings using the Badger's ability. And we can spend that mana on things that aren't creatures, like Esika's Chariot, for example. But before we move on from that, the Badger also has an adventure. Fungus Frolic for 2 and a green, create 2 1/1 green sapperling creature tokens. So just go ahead and get some sapperlings. Maybe we do that on 1 turn, and then the next turn, the Badger comes in for 4 mana, and we can immediately tap those sapperlings, even if we don't have Inga and Esika on the battlefield. That's great. Speaking of Esika, this is her Chariot with the fluffiest possible cats. 3 and a green for a 4/4 vehicle with crew 4 that says when it enters, you make 2 2/2 green cat creatures. And when it attacks, you make a token that's a copy of a token you control. So that doesn't have to be a creature token if we have some treasure in play, for example. But if it's a creature token, which we have millions of, we can make a copy of it. So the Chariot comes in, we can crew it with its own cats next turn, make a 3rd cat, works for me. Speaking of making more copies of our tokens, Second Harvest is an instant for 2 and 2 green that says for each token you control, create a token that's a copy of that permanent. It just doubles all of the tokens we have on the battlefield. And I know you're thinking, what if Idrix and Nev are out? Well, then it triples our tokens. We'll make 2 copies of every token we already have. That's great. All right, Whirler Rogue, a classic. For 2 and 2 blue, we have a 2/2 Human Rogue Artificer that when it comes in, it makes 2 Thopters. They are 1/1 flying artifact creature tokens. And then we can tap 2 untapped artifacts we control to make one of our creatures unblockable. Oftentimes, we are swinging in wide with this deck. We're not having to attack with just one thing at a time. Although we have a few things that might want to attack, or might want a creature to attack by itself. So Whirler Rogue can let us tap 2 of our artifacts in order to do that. We don't have many artifacts in this deck, as you can see. One of them is Esika's Chariot, one of them is a Golem, which you will see in a moment. But we do have these Thopters. So even if we don't use these for mana, which we absolutely could, we can use them to make things unblockable. I like the flexibility there. Wolfbriar Elemental is a really cool card. For 2 and 2 green, we get a 4/4 Elemental with multi-kicker for a green mana. When it enters, we make a 2/2 Wolf for every time it was kicked. We can use our mana that Inga and Esika lets all of our creatures tap for to kick this sucker. So that just seems so cool. We get to get endless wolves, basically. We take our entire board, tap it down. After the 4 mana that we spend on this, every other thing we've tapped, we get a wolf out of it. We just double the number of creatures on our board. It's incredible. Very cool. I really love the Tendershoot Dryad. For 4 and a green, we get a 2/2 Dryad with Ascend, which means that while this is in play, or once this is in play, if then or at any time we have 10 or more permanents, we get the City's Blessing for the rest of the game. The City's Blessing doesn't do anything on its own, we just have it. It's a status that we as a player retain for the rest of the game. This Dryad also says at the beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 green Sapperling creature token. So we're making Sapperlings just like the Badger does, but the Badger does it in our end step, and it's only our end step. The Dryad does it in the upkeep, and it's everyone's upkeep. So if we've got 3 opponents, we play the Dryad. After our next upkeep, we're going to have 4 Sapperlings. And if we have the City's Blessing, Sapperlings we control get +2/+2, as long as we have the City's Blessing. So we're going to have that for the rest of the game. Maybe we've played turn 3 Brightcap Badger's Fungus Frolic Adventure, turn 4 into the Badger, turn 5 we tap the Sapperlings using the Badger's ability, or using the ability the Badger gives them to play the Dryad. The Sapperlings immediately become 3/3s if we've got the City's Blessing at that point, which I hope we do. It just goes off. That's great. We have one more card in here that will also make Sapperlings, but they work together pretty well. Next up, we have Bonnie Paul, Clear Cutter. 3 a green and 2 blue for a 6/5 giant scout with reach that, when it comes in, it makes Bow, a legendary blue ox creature token that has power and toughness equal to the number of lands we control. And whenever we attack, not when Bonnie attacks or when Bow attacks, but whenever we attack with anything, we growth spiral. We can draw a card and we can put a land from our hand onto the graveyard, a land from our hand or from the graveyard onto the battlefield. So it's a little bit better than growth spiral because we can pull things out of the graveyard if we want. Bonnie Paul is an excellent example of why we might use the Whirler Rogue's ability to make something unblockable, because maybe we can't attack very well unless we do it with everything, and we're not ready for that. We're not ready to make the trades, and if we were to attack with everything, we're just going to lose half of our stuff. But Bonnie Paul gives us a reason to say, well, I'm going to attack with one thing. I'm going to tap these 2 Thopters and attack with my Whirler Rogue even, let's say, just to get the Bonnie Paul trigger, to draw us a card, maybe put another land into the battlefield, or if we have it on our graveyard, to get it back onto the battlefield. It doesn't say it comes in tapped either. So Bonnie Paul is great, and it's another card that we cast 1 spell and we get 2 creatures off of it. And the second creature is big. Next up, we have Esix, Fractal Bloom. Esix is a 4/4 fractal for 4 a green and a blue. It has flying, and it says, the first time you would create 1 or more tokens during each of your turns, you may instead choose a creature other than Esix and create that many tokens that are copies of that creature. So what does this mean? Let's say we have Esix in play, and we have the Tendershoot Dryad in play, and we have a Whirler Rogue in play. So, or we'll just say we have the Dryad in play, that's fine. During our upkeep, the first time we would create 1 or more tokens during each of our turns, let's say that is the upkeep trigger that the Dryad has. We would make a Sapperling. If we want, Esix lets us instead choose a creature other than Esix, so maybe the Dryad. And instead of getting a Sapperling, we'll get a second Dryad as a creature token. It'll be exactly the same as this Dryad, except that it's a token. So if we have the City's Blessing, both of those are giving our Sapperlings +2/+2, so they're getting +4/+4. We can do that the first time we make any number of tokens on each of our turns. Esix just replaces the token creation event. It's great. The Gruff triplets are 3 and triple green for a 3/3 Satyr Warrior with trample, and when it enters, if it isn't a token, you make 2 tokens that are copies of it. So you pay 3 and triple green, and you get 3 3/3 tramplers that say when it dies, put a number of 1/1 counters equal to its power on each creature you control named Gruff Triplets. So Gruff Triplets, I mean, just a strong way to eventually get up to a 9/9 trampler, but in this deck, think of what you can do with some of the other cards that we have. For example, Atrix and Nev are in play, let's say, and then we play the Gruff Triplets. We won't make 2 tokens, we'll make 4 tokens. So we have 5 of the triplets. Maybe we have Esika in play as well, and we make a Tindershoot Dryad. Or rather, we have a trigger from the Tindershoot Dryad to make a Saproling. The Saproling comes in. If Gruff Triplets and Esika are in play, we can make a Gruff Triplets token instead of the Tindershoot Dryad. Now, Gruff Triplet says if it isn't a token, you make 2 tokens that are a copy of it. So it would just come in this way as a Gruff Triplets token. But that means we have an extra Gruff Triplets token. And let's say we attack with the original Gruff Triplets and it dies. We're going to be putting counters equal to its power on every creature we control named Gruff Triplets, not just the ones that came in when our original Gruff Triplets entered the battlefield. Lots of shenanigans we can get up to with this. Primeval Bounty is not a creature, but it's worth it. For 5 and a green, we have an enchantment that has 3 abilities. Whenever we cast a creature spell, we make a 3/3 green beast creature token. So this is just free tokens every time we cast a creature spell. And we're already drawing cards off of it from our commander, so we're just going to have more beasts to cast more creatures later on. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put 3+1/+1 counters on a creature you control. So let's protect our creatures, make them big enough to block, big enough to hit. That's great. And landfall, whenever a land enters under our control, we gain 3 life. So just the second 2 abilities are just really bonuses. They're great bonuses, but that first ability is really what we've got it here. The idea of making every creature a creature that comes in with a buddy, that's just too much value to pass up for Primeval Bounty. Similarly, Rampaging Baloths is 4 and double green for a 6/6 trampling beast. With landfall, whenever a land we control enters, we make a 4/4 green beast. It doesn't have trample, but it's every time we get a land in. So if we've got both of these in play, we play a land, gain 3 life, make a 4/4. Next turn, we can tap that 4/4 to play something else. Yeah, a lot of fun. Next up, another non-creature, Titania's Command. I think this card is great in this deck. For 4 and double green, we get a sorcery that says choose 2. It's a command. Exile target player's graveyard. You gain a life for each card exiled this way. It's not each creature exiled this way, each card. Second mode is search your library for up to 2 land cards, put them in the battlefield tapped and then shuffle. It doesn't say basic lands, so they are coming in tapped, but we might be able to get something better than just a basic. Third mode is create 2 2/2 green bear creature tokens, and the last mode is put 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. So the first mode is sort of the weakest of these, but if we're really desperate for life gain or to stop a graveyard shenanigan going on someone else's board, it's terrific. Generally, what I use this for is the second and third modes, since we get to choose 2. We'll go ramp ourselves a little bit, 2 different land cards, and ramp ourselves a little bit by getting 2 creature tokens, which we can, of course, tap for mana next turn using the ability that Inga and Esika give them. But sometimes we want to close things out, too, so we can put 2 1/1 counters on everything. This is just, it's a lot of mana, but it's a lot of value. Next up, we have Avenger of Zendikar for 5 and double green. It is a 5/5 elemental that, when it enters, it makes a 0/1 plant creature token for each land we control. And it has landfall. Whenever land enters under our control, we put a 1/1 counter on each plant we control. Now, do we have any other plants in here? We have 1, which you will see shortly. Yes, you'll see it in our ramp section. It's Topiary Stomper. So Avenger of Zendikar's landfall trigger will put counters on the Stomper as well. But even if it's just, turn 5, let's say, and we're able to power out Avenger of Zendikar using Inga and Esika's ability to make everything tap for mana, we still get 5 plants. which can tap for mana themselves, and whenever we play land, they're going to get bigger and bigger. Avenger of Zendikar always goes off, so that's a lot of fun. Next up, we have the Hornet Queen, card I love. 4 and triple green for a 2/2 insect with flying and death touch. When it enters, make 4 1/1 green insect creature tokens with flying and death touch. So 7 mana for 5 creatures. They all fly, they all have death touch. Yeah, no one's gonna attack you with something that's not like Crater Hoof that's, you know, trampling over. They're not gonna risk their things with your little death touchers. And then you can use some of your death touchers to make more death touchers, or make more other creatures, since they can all tap for mana. And if you have Esix in play, let's say, Hornet Queen is making 4 tokens all at the same time. So it comes in, and its trigger goes on the stack, make 4 tokens. If you haven't made any other tokens that turn, this will be the first time you've created tokens, which means you can choose a creature other than Esix and make tokens that are a copy of that instead. Maybe you make tokens that are a copy of Hornet Queen. So Hornet Queen comes in, Esix modifies its event, and it makes 4 Hornet Queens, each of which make 4 death touchers. So you end up with 5 Hornet Queens and 16 1/1 insects with flying and death touch. It's crazy. I was able to do this once at a table where I also had Adrix and Nev in play, made double the amount. It was insane. Hornet Queen just goes off in this deck. It's great. Much like Koma, Cosmos Serpent. Koma, it's hard to overstate how powerful Koma is. 7 mana, so 3, 2 green, and 2 blue, for a 6/6 Serpent that can't be countered. And at the beginning of each upkeep, we make a 3/3 blue Serpent creature token named Koma's Coil. Much like the Tindershoot Dryad, we're getting tokens during our upkeep. But Koma says, if we sacrifice another Serpent, do we have any other Serpents in this deck? We have 2 others besides Koma. But if we sacrifice a Serpent, including these coils that we're making, we can either tap target permanent and its activated abilities can't be activated this turn, or Koma gets indestructible until end of turn. That second ability is the one we use most of the time. Just being able to have an indestructible blocker, an indestructible attacker, every time, every upkeep, not just our upkeep, but every upkeep, we're getting an extra token that we can use for mana, because it doesn't have to be untapped for us to sacrifice it for Koma's ability. Just very good. So if we like Koma, why not have Koma, the new Koma World Eater from Foundations? For the same cost, 3 double green and double blue, we get an 8/12 Serpent that can't be countered. It has trample, it has ward 4, and when it does combat damage to a player, we make 4 3/3 blue Serpent creature tokens named Koma's Coil. It's the same tokens from before. So this Koma doesn't make tokens on its own, but it is an 8/12 Trampler, and all it has to do is 1 point of combat damage or more to a player to make 4 tokens immediately. I think we can swing in with the sucker. Next up, we have Somberwald Beastmaster. This is an expensive 1/1 for 6 and a green. It's a 1/1 human ranger, but when it enters, it makes a 2/2 wolf, a 3/3 beast, and a 4/4 beast, and gives all of our creature tokens death touch, just as long as this is in play. So we are getting 10 power and toughness for 7 mana rather, over 4 bodies. We can use that we can tap all of that to next turn to cast whatever we want, whatever creature we want. Just a lot of value there. And then finally, Verdant Force. Verdant Force is 5 and triple green for a 7/7 elemental, and it has the same ability that the Tindershoot Dryad has. At the beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 green Saproling. So this is a little bit overcosted for what we're getting, but it's a 7/7, and that's not nothing. Being able to block better than original Koma, except for, of course, the threat of indestructibility, Verdant Force is just a good include in this. And sometimes we're not paying we're not tapping any lands for it at all. We've got so many tokens, we're able to just spit it out with all of our creatures, and then draw a card off of it. Great. So, that is most of our game plan. We have some supplements to it, but let's talk about our support before we move on. We're going to go to our card advantage section. As usual, I just use the word draw as my tag to represent card advantage. It's not all drawing cards though. So we've seen the Ether Channeler. We have Garrick's Uprising. For 2 and a green, an enchantment that with 3 abilities. When it enters, if we control a creature with power 4 or greater, we draw a card. Inga and Esika is a 4/4. So as long as our commander's out when we play Garrick's Uprising, we're going to draw off of it. Creatures we control have Trample. So that's one of our evasion cards to give all of the stuff we have the ability to just roll over our opponent's creatures. And whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters under our control, we draw another card. So this is a card draw engine, as you can see, but even if not, it just comes in for 3, draws us a card if we have our commander in play, and replaces itself and gives our things trample. So yeah. Next up, similar effect on Kiora Behemoth Beckoner. Kiora is a planeswalker. We don't run a lot of planeswalkers, or we haven't so far in these deck tech videos, but we're starting today. 2 and a hybrid Simic mana for a 7 loyalty planeswalker, Kiora, that says whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. So it's the same thing that Garrick's Uprising gives us, its 3rd ability. But also, we can pay 1 loyalty to untap a permanent. That's only once per turn at sorcery speed, of course, but that can be untapping one of our creatures that we've tapped for mana to cast another creature, and then we can do it again. It's untapping a land if we want to do that, because we want to maybe cast something that's not a creature spell. Kiora is just a very strong card, and even if we only get 6, if we get all 6 untaps with it, that's terrific. And then she'll just sit on the battlefield, drawing us cards. Tribute to the World Tree costs triple green, just green, green, green. And again, we can't use our creatures to make mana for this, at least not with the ability that Inga and Esika gives them. But it is an enchantment that says whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card if its power is 3 or greater, otherwise put 2+1/+1 counters on it. So this is not non-token creatures, it's all of the creatures we're getting. So Ether Channeler comes in, Tribute to the World Tree is going to put 2 counters on it, make it a 4/3. We make a bird with it, Tribute to the World Tree is going to make it a 3/3. If we were to get something else that's bigger, like Kona, which we're going to talk about in a moment, we'll just draw a card off of that. So Tribute gives us so much value and makes our things so powerful. This is just a very nice supplement to what we're trying to do here. Most everyone knows Beast Whisperer, 2 and double green for a 2/3 Elf Druid. Whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. It's that simple. There are several other cards that'll do similar things to this, or like Primordial Sage, when something enters, you draw a card. If you'll look down, as usual, at the bottom of my Moxfield page for this deck, the deck list, of course, is in the video description, you'll see a considering section. A bunch of other cards that I thought about including and then cut because I thought they wouldn't do as much as I wanted for the ones that are in the deck. But you can, of course, swap things around if you have a different budget in mind, if you're trying to go for a different power level. It works just fine. I wasn't 100% sure I was even going to keep this Beast Whisperer in here, considering our commander is a draw engine as well. But I figure, why not double up? We can always use more cards in a Simic deck. Speaking of which, Kellen, Inquisitive Prodigy, is one of our Kellen cards, or one of the Kellen cards, I should say. It's the only one we have in this deck. For 2, a green and a blue, we get a 3/4 Human Fairy Detective with Flying and Vigilance that says whenever Kellen attacks, destroy up to 1 target artifact, and if we controlled that permanent, we draw a card. Generally, we're not going to destroy our own artifacts in order to just draw off of it. But the ability to repeatedly attack with Kellen and blow up other problem artifacts, because we don't have to connect in order to do it, that's just very strong. And Kellen has Vigilance even if our commander isn't on the battlefield. We also have an adventure, Tail the Suspect, for a green and a blue. It's a sorcery. Investigate. You may play an additional land this turn. So it's not Explore, but it gives us an artifact that we might want to use to just turn into a card draw, or we can just crack it. You can crack a clue, obviously, to draw a card. And then maybe we get that extra land drop and use that even without having to crack the clue first. Next up is Kona, Rescue Beastie. If you've played Standard since Duskmorn has come out, you've probably seen Kona sometime. For 3 and a green, it's a 4/3 Beast Survivor with Survival. At the beginning of your second main phase, if Kona is tapped, you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. So Kona, like I said, doesn't draw you a card, but he gives you card advantage. Kona gets around you having to pay for your things. If you tap Kona for mana using the ability that Inga and Esika gives it, you can then cast a spell with that mana, and then at the start of your second main phase, assuming you've tapped Kona before that, you get to take any permanent in your hand and just put it on the battlefield. Maybe it's Tribute to the World Tree. Maybe it's Bonnie Paul. You can certainly cheat mana this way in a way that's even better than just tapping it for mana, but you also get to tap it for mana. Really nice. The Sad Robot, Solemn Simulacrum, costs 4. It is a 2/2 golem. We talked about our artifacts earlier. We could, of course, tap this if we want with Whirler Rogue, or we could destroy it to draw a card with Kellen, but when it comes in, we ramp it growth. When it dies, we draw. Just a great way to ramp ourselves and to give us some draw. We've already talked about Bonnie Paul, but let's talk about Timeless Witness. 2 and double green for a 2/1 Human Shaman. When it enters, we get to get a card from our graveyard back to our hand. Just a regrowth. It doesn't have to be a creature card, it doesn't have to be a non-land card, it doesn't have to be a permanent card. Whatever we want, we get back. And now we have a 2/1 that we can tap for things, and if it dies, we can eternalize it. Eternalize for 5 and double green means we exile it and make a token copy that is a 4/4 black zombie Human Shaman. This is just going to sit around and tap for mana for us. It puts a card in our hand. It's not drawing a card, of course, but it does get it back into our hand. That's something that we've lost. Great card. So, we've seen our draw. Let's find out how we cast these spells if we're not doing it with Inga and Esika. We've got a lot of ramp in this deck. So, Azusa, Lost But Seeking, is a 1/2 human monk for a 2 and a green. She lets us play 2 additional lands on each of our turns. Azusa is one of the more expensive cards in our deck, but she's worth it. Just very strong. If we're drawing so many cards, inevitably we're going to have a hand that's got too many lands in it, and just too many cards in general. Azusa gives us an outlet for that, only for 3 mana. Speaking of 3 mana, 2 and a green, we have Cultivate. Love Cultivate. Search your library for up to 2 basics, put 1 on the battlefield tapped, keep the other in your hand, shuffle. So it's a Rampant Growth and a Lay of the Land together. Yeah, good card. We've seen these. We haven't seen the Somberwald Sage, though. 2 and a green for a 0/1 human druid that taps for 3 mana of any one color, but we can only spend it on creature spells. So Somberwald Sage is... It has a better ability than Inga and Esika has, but it still triggers Inga and Esika's second ability, since if we use the 3 mana on this to cast, let's say, Azusa, we're still spending mana from a creature to cast a creature spell, so that will trigger the card draw ability from Inga and Esika. We have our 1 plant, Topiary Stomper, 1 and double green for a 4/4 plant dinosaur with Vigilance. It can't attack or block unless you control 7 or more lands, although I don't think we're going to have trouble with that. But when it enters, we Rampant Growth. Search your library for a basic, put it on the battlefield tapped, shuffle. Topiary Stomper is going to get us there, and he's just a really nice dinosaur. Next up, we have Case of the Locked Hothouse. An enchantment, it's a case for 3 and a green that lets us play an additional land on each of our turns. That's exploration. And then we can solve it when we have 7 or more lands. What that means is, at the beginning of our end step, if we meet the solve condition, which again, us just having 7 or more lands, the case becomes solved for the rest of the time it's on the battlefield. And while it's solved, we can look at the top card of our library at any time and play lands and cast creatures and enchantments from the top of our library. We have a few enchantments in this deck. We have an awful lot of creatures, and we've got plenty of lands. So being able to get to them from the top of our deck is terrific. I call that card advantage. I think most people would. I didn't put it in the card advantage section simply because it takes a little time to get to it. but it absolutely gives you something that you want. So, also, if you're wondering, Case of the Locked Hothouse lets us play an additional land on each of our turns. Azusa lets us play 2 additionals. That means with both of these out, we can play 4 lands every turn. It doesn't overlap like some people are used to in other games. Next up, we have Goreclaw, Terror of Kalsisma. Goreclaw, she's a big bear. For 3 and a green, we have a 4/3 bear that says creature spells we cast with power 4 or greater, which is not all of our cards, but a lot of them, cost 2 generic mana less to cast. And whenever Goreclaw attacks, each creature with power 4 or greater gets +1/+1 and trample until end of turn. So she gives us a little bit of evasion, she gives us that great ramp, and she pumps up the team, including herself, because it doesn't say each other creature. Next up, we have another battle, Invasion of Zendikar. Invasion of Zendikar is our explosive vegetation for the deck. 3 and a green, when it enters, search your library for 2 basic lands, put them on the battlefield, tapped, and shuffle. But it has 3 defense, and when it is defeated, it flips into Awakened Skyclave, a 4/4 elemental with vigilance and haste that says as long as it is on the battlefield, it's a land, in addition to its other types. So if we need something that cares about, tapping for land, that's great. But even without that, it taps for a mana of any color. It's a 4/4 vigilance. It has haste. It's great. Invasion of Zendikar is probably my favorite battle. Maybe my favorite battle. Just like it very much. We've seen Kellen. We haven't seen the Leyline. Leyline of Abundance is 2 and double green. Because it is a Leyline, it's an enchantment that if it is in your opening hand, you begin the game with it on the battlefield. If you want. You should. It's very cool to be able to say, yes, I'm not the first player, but I have before game actions, and just put the Leyline into play. It's great. So the Leyline has 2 abilities. 2 other abilities, I should say. The first is, whenever you tap a creature for mana, add an additional green. So every time we tap something, using the ability that Inga and Esika gives it, we add an additional green. That green is not restricted to just creature spells, the way that Inga and Esika's mana is. So we get to just have more and more and more mana every time we're tapping our creatures to cast other creatures. And if we have enough mana, we can pay 6 and double green to put a 1/1 counter on each of our creatures. With Leyline of Abundance, it can fuel itself that way, but man, I've certainly swung in with Inga and Esika and the team and been able to activate that twice. It's just a good time. We've seen the Sad Robot, but now, one of my favorite green creatures, Silverback Elder, 2 and triple green for a 5/7 Ape Shaman that says whenever you cast a creature spell, so it doesn't have to land, it just has to be cast, choose one. Either Naturalize, destroy a target artifact or enchantment, look at the top 5 of your library, put a land from among them on the battlefield tapped and the rest on the bottom in a random order, or gain 4 life. Do you need life? Cast some creatures. Do you want to blow up artifacts or enchantments? Cast some creatures. Are you really desperate for land? Cast some creatures. Silverback Elder gives you everything you're going to need. Great guy. We've seen Body Paul and Titania's Command, now for the Beanstalk Giant. It is a 7 mana giant with power and toughness, each equal to the number of lands we control, but it has an adventure. Fertile Footsteps is Rampant Growth. Search your library for a basic land, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. Actually, it's not Rampant Growth because it comes in untapped, so we can use it right away if we wanted to. It's sort of like, it's just very good. The Beanstalk Giant is one of the few cards we have in this deck that doesn't do much once he's out, but in all likelihood, it's a 7/7 creature. It might be a little bit lower, or smaller rather, if we've powered it out with the tapping for mana from our other creatures, but it's just going to get bigger as time goes on, and sort of be another bow, like the token that Bonnie Paul creates. So, that is our ramp. Let's look at removal. We've gone through acceleration, let's look at our interaction. We have the Ether Channeler for bouncing. We have a Brazen Borrower. Brazen Borrower is a 1 blue for a 3/1 fairy rogue with flash and flying that can only block creatures with flying, so high flying. That is something we can cast with Inga and Esika and draw a card off of it, flash it in, block a flyer, or flash it in during the end step, our opponent's end step, and just untap with it, but also an adventure, Petty Theft. 1 and a blue, return target non-land permanent and opponent controls to its owner's hand. So it's not limited to creatures, but it can't hit our own stuff, so we can't rebuy our Ether Channeler triggers, for example. Still, something that we can do on our opponent's turn when we have so many creatures in hand, and then after the adventure, we can play the Brazen Borrower again, also on our opponent's turn, draw a card, untap, good times. Next up is the Trickster's Elk, since we're sort of staying in Eldraine here. 2 and a green for a 3/3 Elk that has Bestow for 1 and a green. So Bestow means when we cast it for its Bestow cost, it's an aura spell with enchant creature. And if it becomes unattached, it becomes the creature again. So essentially, Trickster's Elk is here to be a 3/3 for 3 that we can tap for mana, of course, using our commander, or to be a removal spell for 2. 2 and a green, it's an aura that says enchanted creature loses all abilities and is an elk with power and times 3/3. So we put that on one of our opponent's creatures, or maybe their commander, and they've just got a 3/3 sitting there. If they can't sacrifice it or bounce it or something like that, or destroy the aura on it, they've just got to deal with a 3/3 elk. And if they want to attack us with a 3/3 elk, we are fine with that. We have plenty of other ways to beat them before their elk kills us. And if they find a way to sacrifice it or attack someone else and it gets chump blocked, we'll get our elk back. And now we have something we can tap for mana. Frilled Mystic. I was going to put Mystic Snake in this deck, which is, of course, in the considering section, which is also great. But I think Frilled Mystic is really cool, even if it's maybe technically not as good. Frilled Mystic is a 3/2 elf lizard wizard for double green and double blue. It has flash, and when it enters, you may counter target spell. Just counter a spell, leaves a 3/2, we can tap that for mana later. Sounds great. Halana, Kessig Ranger, of Halana and Elena Partners fame. If you want to see them in a commander deck, look up my Magic is for Everyone commander deck tech from Pride 2025. Halana is a 3/4 human archer for 3 and a green with reach, because she's an archer. And whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 2 generic mana. When you do, that creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature. So for essentially a kicker of 2 generic, every time your creatures come in, they rabid bite something. If you want them to. Just pay the kicker every time. Play 3 creatures, play 6 mana to go with them. Eat something. Eat 3 things. Sounds great. Halana is a lot of fun. And of course, she has the partner ability, not being used in this deck, but very strong. We've seen Kellen, we've seen Silverback Elder. Let's look at a different ape. Kogla, the Titan ape. Kogla's just so much fun. For 3 and triple green, we get a 7/6 ape that says when it enters, it fights up to 1 target creature we don't control. So if we can choose wisely, Kogla will survive that. We also don't have to choose wisely, which I'll explain in a moment. But whenever Kogla attacks, we destroy an artifact or enchantment defending player controls. So we get to naturalize something that the defending player has whenever Kogla just attacks. But most interestingly, 1 and a green and return target, 1 and a green is the only cost. The effect is return target human we control to its owner's hand, and Kogla gains indestructible until end of turn. Our commander is human. Its creature types are human and god, so it's a human. So if Inga and Esika is in play, we can play Kogla. It enters, its first ability goes on the stack, where it enters and it fights something. In response to its own ability, we can pay 1 and a green and bounce one of our humans, which we have plenty of humans. We have 12 total humans, including our commander, but we're always going to have our commander generally. So we bounce Inga and Esika to give Kogla indestructible, and now whatever it's fighting, hopefully it's winning that fight because it's going to kill what we've chosen, and it's not going to die in the process, even if they might have had 6 or more damage to do to Kogla. And then we can replay our creature. Maybe what we bounced was Ether Channeler. Now we can replay Ether Channeler and get another interest trigger from it. Kogla is very cool and just a lot of fun to play. Big fan of Kogla. So we've seen Coma, Cosmos Serpent. I code this as removal because it gets creatures out of our way, even if it's just temporarily. But Hullbreaker Horror is real removal, real dangerous, hateful removal. 5 and 2 blue for a 7/8 Kraken Horror with flash and can't be countered. And while it's in play, whenever we cast a spell, any spell, we can either return a spell we don't control to its owner's hand or a non-land permanent to its owner's hand. That non-land permanent could be ours, so maybe we use that to rebuy the Ether Channeler. Or return target spell we don't control. That means a spell on the stack. So this is not a counter spell because it just puts it back in their own hand, but it gets around things that can't be countered. So if someone else plays Coma while we have Hullbreaker out, if we have something that we can cast at instant speed, we'll trigger Hullbreaker Horror and make them put Coma back in their hand, and they don't get their mana back from it. Hullbreaker Horror, if you play it for the tempo, it's very frustrating to play against, and it just gives you a lot. So we have other categories to go through. All of these support our game plan. The big game plan, of course, is tokens, but there's a large theme of counters in this deck. We've seen several of these already. Tribute to the World Tree, Warden of the Grove. Let's talk about Forgotten Ancient, Mr. Baby Cakes himself. 3 and a green for an 0/3 elemental. Whenever a player casts a spell, you may put a 1/1 counter on Forgotten Ancient. That's not whenever you cast a spell, that's whenever anyone casts a spell. Doesn't matter what spell it is, you get a counter on Forgotten Ancient. And then, at the beginning of your upkeep, you may move any number of 1/1 counters from Forgotten Ancient onto other creatures. That doesn't mean just your creatures, but it probably will be. You put these things on your creatures, you have plenty of tokens, you shore them up, now they're dangerous threats. Or they're just threatening blockers. But also, if you want, you can put these counters on other creatures. So maybe you do some politicking with this. Look, I've got 6 counters on Forgotten Ancient. I will put 4 of them on your commander, so you can swing in and kill the other, our mutual opponent. Just don't attack me. So many things you can do with this. We've seen all of the rest of these cards except for Surek Goreclaw. Surek Goreclaw is a 4 and 2 green human bear that is a 6/5 with trample. It gives all of our other creatures trample, much like Garruk's Uprising does. And it says, whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it. It gains haste until end of turn. Giving haste to our creatures, the 1/1 counter is nice. We enjoy that. But putting haste on our creatures, making it so all of our creatures that are not tokens come in with haste, yes, we can attack with them, but we can also tap them for mana. So we can chain creatures into more creatures. Surek Goreclaw does work in multiple different ways in this deck. So they also give trample to all of our creatures, which is Evasion. Let's talk about Evasion. We have several different versions of it. Champion of Lampholt is one of the best. 1 and double green for a 1/1 human warrior. It says creatures with power less than Champion of Lampholt's power can't block creatures we control. So if Champion of Lampholt's power is 4, no creature our opponents control with power less than 5 can block any of our creatures. Not just Champion of Lampholt, not just smaller things, just simply can't block against us. Our things become unblockable, except by creatures with power equal to or greater than Champion of Lampholt's power. I think I did the math wrong a moment ago, but yeah, if Champion of Lampholt's power is 4, only things with power 4 can block us. 4 or greater, that is. Either way, whenever another creature enters under our control, the champion gets a +1/+1 counter. That doesn't say non-token creatures. So if Whirler Rogue comes in, Champion of Lampholt's going to get a counter, Whirler Rogue's going to trigger, put 2 Thopters into play, Champion of Lampholt will trigger 2 more times, and now our 1/1 is a 4/4 from the 3 creatures that just came in. Champion of Lampholt, if it gets big enough, we can just swing and it doesn't matter what they have to block. They can't. So yeah, Garruk's Uprising gives trample. Goreclaw can give trample to big things, where a rogue can make things just unblockable. Surek Goreclaw gives Surek Goreclaw just gives trample. Overwhelming Stampede also gives trample, but for 3 and double green, this sorcery adds +X to all of our creatures, where X is the greatest power among creatures we control. This is one of our finishers, along with Champion of Lampholt, because it can just end the game. We've got trample, we've got huge creatures, we've got a million tokens, they're all huge. Let's go with it. Similarly, Indra's Forerunners, the Angry Bacon, is 5 and triple green for a 7/7 boar with Vigilance, Trample, and Haste, and when it enters, all of our creatures get Vigilance and Trample and +2/+2 until end of turn. So this is not Craterhoof Behemoth, but it does a pretty good impression of it if your opponent's dead anyway. So those are our evasive tagged creatures. Let's look at the creatures I've tagged as utility. We have a few of these. Not just creatures, actually. Augur of Autumn is 1 and double green that says you may look at the top card of your library at any time. It's the same ability that Case of the Locked Hothouse gives us once we solve it. But the Augur says we can also play lands from the top of our library just once they're in play. And as long as we control 3 or more creatures with different powers, we have Coven, and we can cast creature spells from the top of our library as well. Technically, this is card advantage, but I put it in here just to keep it a little bit distinct from the other kind of card advantage we have. This sort of precognition effect we get from both of these, very strong. We have Final Word Phantom, 2 and a blue for a 1/4 flash flying spirit detective that says during each opponent's end step, you may cast spells as though they had flash. So a great way for us to, during our opponent's end step right before our turn, tap out all of our creatures, fill up our board with other creatures, get a bunch of enters effects from that. It's great. Same thing is true of High Fate Trickster. 3 and a blue for a 4/2 flash flyer that lets us cast spells as though they had flash all the time. So Final Word Phantom, a little bit more restrictive, but better at blocking. High Fate Trickster, might as well have both of these, since they both meet the Karuga requirements. And finally, since we've already seen Kogla as a utility that we talked about with his ability to return humans to make him indestructible, Glasspool Mimic. Glasspool Mimic can be anything we already have, as long as it's not legendary. And even if it is, maybe it's legendary, but it has an enters effect that we would still be able to get. Either way, though, maybe we have High Fate Trickster in play, and we aren't confident that we're going to be able to keep it in play. So we play the Mimic for 2 and a blue, and it comes in as another High Fate Trickster. Now we've got some redundancy. Or another Final Word Phantom, another Augur of Autumn, whatever we need. If it comes in as Kogla, now they're both legendary, and we have to legend rule one of them to the graveyard. But anything else, we get to keep it, and with so many different useful, unique cards in this deck, Glasspool Mimic subbing in as a copy of almost any of them is really helpful. And if we want, we can just play it as a tap land. Glasspool Shore comes in tapped, taps for blue, in case we need extra blue. I don't imagine that we're going to see much of that, but yeah, just very helpful with the Mimic there. So we've already talked a little bit about our Wincons. What I've called Wincons are Champion of Lamholt because it makes our things unblockable, and Overwhelming Stampede and Inra's Forerunners because it makes our things bigger and trampling. These are things that just finish the game. Game's got to end sometime. But we also have 1 Wrath in the deck. It's a Wrath, pretty soft Wrath actually, but a useful one in this deck especially. For 1 and 2 blue, we have Filter Out. It's an instant. Return all non-creature, non-land permanents to their owner's hands. So everyone gets to keep their creatures, which most of our deck is creatures, a lot more than our opponents. But no one else gets to keep their artifacts and enchantments that aren't creatures. Or no one does, rather. We don't either. However, this is only 3 mana, and it's at instant speed. So getting in with our things, if our opponents have got problematic artifacts and enchantments, maybe we've dealt with them with Kogla, maybe they've got planeswalkers, maybe they've even got battles. But Filter Out is going to filter them all out and make us safe again. So let's go to our final section, which is our lands. We are running a lot of basic lands in this deck because we want to make sure our lands come in untapped, can tap for mana. We have several different ways to get extra lands into play each turn, so being able to ensure that they're untapped helps us. And the mana mix, it's pretty heavily green, but we want to make sure we have plenty of blue too, so that's why I went 16-10. We are running 1 check land. It's Hinterland Harbor, of course. Since we have so many basics, we're generally going to be able to get this to come in untapped. If we wanted it to be more consistency, of course we could upgrade this to Dreamroot Cascade, which is the slow land version of that is green and blue. Next, we're running 6 fixing lands. So what we have here, obviously, Command Tower comes in untapped, taps for blue or green, love it. Path of Ancestry comes in tapped, but taps for blue or green. And if we spend the mana from it to cast a creature spell that shares a creature type with our commander, including our commander, we scry one. We only have one god in this deck, which of course is Inga and Esika, but we have 12 humans, so that's 11 other creatures that we might be able to get a scry off of Path of Ancestry with. And Command Tower is so good that a tapped Command Tower, yeah, why wouldn't you run it? Next up we have Temple of the False God. On turn 5, it's a Soul Ring. We don't need a lot of extra mana in this deck, but we have it, and we're going to use it, so here it is. We also have 3 soft fetches. Evolving Wilds and Broker's Hideout can both find us whichever of the basics we need. Broker's Hideout will also give us a life in the process. Evolving Wilds we could hold up if we really wanted to. And then Myriad Landscape is a way for us to ramp and not have to use any of our spells or creatures to do it. We can play this before turn 3, then on turn 3, assuming we've made our other land drops, we can pay 2, tap and sack this, and search for 2 basics of the same land type. Yeah, so this is a good way to make sure that we've hit our land drops and we are up a little bit by the time turn 4 comes out and we want to drop our commander. Next, we have one of the pathways. If you've watched my channel, you know that I love the pathways. Comes in, it is not basic typed, but it's whatever color we need in the moment. And this time we're running a scry land. So Temple of Mystery enters tapped, taps for our colors, scries when it does. Finally, we have 3 utility lands. I love Demolition Field. It's just Field of Ruin, but it doesn't ramp everyone. It doesn't give everyone a land, just the person whose land we destroyed and us. So taps for colorless, or we can pay 2, tap and sack it to blow up a non-basic of our opponents. Maybe it's Glacial Chasm, maybe it's Reliquary Tower to make them discard down, whatever we may need. And then they get to Rampant Growth, and so do we. We both... no, I'm sorry, it's not Rampant Growth because it comes in untapped. So we both get a land, we can both tap those lands right away. We've lost our Demolition Field, but they've lost something probably more valuable. So that helps us. Reliquary Tower is in here because we want no maximum hand size. We want to be able to hold all these cards that we're just building up in our hand. And finally, Tyrite Sanctum. I really think this card is cool. It taps for colorless. We can pay 2 and tap it to make a legendary creature a god in addition to its other types, and put a counter on it, so nice little counter synergy. But most importantly, 4, tap and sacrifice the Sanctum to put an indestructible counter on target god. Inga and Esika is a god. So we can pay 5 mana of our lands to make our commander indestructible, and permanently indestructible. That seems like a lot of mana to do it, but all of our creatures are tapping for mana for the other creatures we're playing, so it doesn't really matter. So that about sums it up. Again, I'm going to be making a deck for each of the March of the Machine legendary creatures, so let me know in the comments. What did you think of this video? If you'd like to see a specific other commander or a particular deck style for that commander, I would like to read those comments and give you what you want. So thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure to like and subscribe, and remember, magic is fun. You should play more Magic.